Our next speaker is Tanguy Delestré. He's the ICT advisor of Bianca de Baets, the Brussels Minister of Community Informatics and Digital Transition. One of the ambitions of Bianca de Baets is to transform Brussels into a smart city, where devices and other digital means make the life of the citizens much more easy. And Tanguy will tell us all about the Brussels Smart City Plan.
Yes, dear Philip, hi, thanks for organizing the event. Hello everybody. I first of all, have to excuse I'm not Bianca de Baets. Yeah, she has been asked to be at the parliament. You know, democracy is like that. So she had to be at the parliament today for a commission, and so I'm standing in for her. So. Data is the new oil. We heard it in the previous presentation, and you know it, of course, as a data scientist, that is quite important. Today, I would like to go over some elements of what a smart Brussels could be, what your role could be in that smart Brussels to make Brussels better. And, data is the new oil, yes, but you can actually do better, because data, first of all, can make a world cleaner. You know that, we have, of course, climate change, very important. We mentioned the previous speaker on the disasters, natural disasters coming more and more. With a smarter Brussels or a smarter data, we can actually make a cleaner world, because ICT can reduce emissions. And best of all, we produce tons of data ourselves. We produce it also in Europe. We don't have a lot of rare metals here or oil, but we produce a lot of data. And we have a lot of smart, educated people like you. Open license, yes, the data now is open, and also we strive to open up data through different licenses, and so that everyone can start developing on data. Big data, yes. There is indeed an increase of data over the past years, and it's growing at a huge speed. A lot of changes and new things can happen thanks to these huge data streams. Think about the genome that had to be looked at. How can we derive the genome and the data? In the last few years, the time to decrypt this genome has been decreased by 10,000. So this provides a lot of opportunities. So the message to you as data scientists, you know all this already. The message is simple: keep calm and open that data, use that data. So in Brussels, a first step that we have done to opening up the data was beginning of March, where we opened up an open data store called opendatastore.brussels. There are about 100 data sets for the moment, and both from public, because public there is a PSI directive that makes it obligatory for administrations to actually publish by default their data, and also private. And just a few weeks ago, we actually managed with this portal to link the medical community, who had a data set of defibrillators, and they had it on their site, but the Red Cross or the emergency service had no idea that this list of defibrillators existed. And just by putting it up on the site and being used by a hackathon called Molengeek, now this link between that kind of privately managed data now is open and can be really reused. The numbers, yes, Agoria has used the EU study and looked at, if all the data can be opened, it can create jobs in Brussels, the region, it can provide value added for the region and can bring benefits. Of course, that's when all the data is opened and can be reused. For the moment, we work also on, an open data license, and at least, there are some, the licenses between Brussels, Flemish region, Walloon region, and federal region. Soon we have some meetings together, at least to have licenses that are interoperable and can be reused. So if you want to make a mobility solution, you will not have different licenses and incompatibility because of these usages. So open data, can be a hype, but if you look at a few examples, Kobe Verharen, he started in Lisbon and he will soon start in Brussels to look at data for bike roads, and he's looking at, he's using the open data from the Brussels region on the altitudes, so as to figure out the best way to go through Brussels and avoiding the hills of Woluwe or the other places. Mobility it's not a hype, there is a lot of data. So what about Brussels now? If we look at Brussels as a smart city, well, a person from the European Commission mentioned that Brussels reminded him of Berlin 20 years ago. That was related to cultural information, to a lot of activity in the city. Let's see that, Brussels doesn't need to be compared to Berlin or Silicon Valley or so on. We need to start on our own to be our own reference. And there is a good basis for that. Just, the 25% of the Belgian ICT startups are created here in Brussels. There is a lot of ICT jobs in Belgium. And these ICT jobs are also in Brussels. And when you look at the European Digital City Index, Brussels is on 7th and 9th for scale-ups, so for startups that grow further, and 9 for startups. So there is a huge ambition to go there and to go on the top 5. So that ambition is actually put forward in a strategy, and on the high level, these are the 5 policy perspectives of the Brussels region. First, start from the citizen, be inclusive, and you see there is a word called loving labs, but it could be living labs, but yes, the citizen actually is important that he's just like mentioned in the previous speaker, that it's not about producing products that then will be reused 3 years later. Here also it's the citizen that with all his data is very knowledgeable and has to be listened to, because bottom-up provides the actual answers to a lot of the challenges. Second, make a smart city as inclusive as possible, also as gender positive as possible. There are some studies like in Vienna where they look at the movement pattern of women in the city, and it's different than men. Men go often from A to B and from B to A, and women are doing some stops in between. And so if you use all these different mobility patterns, you can arrive at an inclusive smart city. Also, with education possibilities, no one has to be left behind in a digital perspective. Dare to embrace innovation. I don't have to say that to you, you know it. A culture of innovation and risk-taking is for a lot of sectors still new and has to be, of course, worked on. In Brussels, Innoviris is really pushing for programs that will link also smart city and innovation and co-creation in the coming months. Foster creative and entrepreneurial spirit in the smart city perspective. Also, for the moment, through Impulse, a lot of maybe some people from here are being consulted to look at how the digital economy can better be helped in a smart city perspective. Lastly, the public authority have been shaken in the past few weeks. Things about a smarter government are being looked at, and it's a priority, of course, to move to a 21st century smart government. But from this policy perspective, if you look at the smart city grid, you always see that there is some focus on smart living, smart economy, environment, smart government, smart mobility, and smart people. Just wanted to highlight a few. Smart people, we supported recently a hackathon on Molengeek. There will be another hackathon on gender diversity beginning of September as well. Regarding smart living, well, there are a lot of projects that happen in Brussels. There was a Creative Ring Challenge that was organized recently. Smart mobility, there are a lot of innovative projects are helped in the research arm. ASIM is about combining multimodal platforms. Biotope is about improving bike lanes, emergency services, and other. So let me take one focus actually on e-health. If you look at the numbers in Brussels, they are really bad. 24% of the people feel in bad shape. 40% have mental health problems, and the average life expectancy between, let's say, Molenbeek and St. Peterswoluwe is quite different. So collective well-being and inequality are probably some things that need to be worked on. And data itself will not solve everything. It's just a means. There are some correlations that are being looked at. But what you could do there is, for example, in health or in cancer research, you can find, and that's your role, to look at correlations in these thousands of, for example, researchers of cancers. Look if there are maybe links between one or the other element. And there are tons of other examples. I heard recently that a big data scientist in France wanted to reduce by 10% the unemployment just by looking at correlations. So, that's something unimaginable, but well, we'll see if he's right. So, coming back to health, smart city is also a better health city. It goes about exchanging of information, and it goes also about better monitoring and prevention. And you, with the data and the view, you can make it better, you can make it smarter, a better city. Thank you very much.